Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and paint the wood slat pieces. These, like everything of all the other floor pieces, are painted flat black. And the color we're going to put on top of it is the dirt color. And I've got a recipe for the dirt color on the website that you can mix. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush it just the same as I do anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit on the paper towel and try to wipe most of it off. And with this, you know, I don't think I have to be quite as careful as I did with the decorative stone one, because that one you can really see the spots. But this, I think we can probably have a good, kind of a good idea on. These slats are pretty rough. So you can, you know, I think you can get by without seeing brush strokes quite as bad. But if I paint over it, you notice that nothing's really happening, right? So it's going to take quite a few strokes to get this going. So what I'm going to do is don't push hard. Just go really lightly until you're sure that you're not going to get big swatches of paint on this, or big streaks of paint. And now at this point I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see just a little bit better idea of what this is going to do. So I am just going to use kind of short strokes, and now that I know that the paint is cooperating, I'm going to push just a little bit harder, and I'm going to kind of spin my paintbrush around as I do. Now, as far as matching the recipe for this dirt color, what you can do is you could actually take a sample of earth or a little baggie of dirt into the hardware store or paint department and pick out a color chip that's about 2 shades lighter than that actual color of dirt. Have them mix a quart for you, and you will have lots of projects you could probably use that dirt color for. I'm getting close to done. Look at that. That looks great. Okay, that's kind of what I started out before, and here's kind of what I started out with afterwards. Now, after you finish this and got it the color you like it, set it aside. And when you work on your next piece, keep this one nearby as a guide. So when this one now matches the one you finished and liked, you'll know that you're done. While you're doing the floors, when you get your paint just the way you like it, go ahead and work on your doors. Paint them flat black, and then you dry brush the dirt color on top of it for the wood, and you'll have your doors done too. And one last note, don't forget to paint these little individual tiles while you've got the paint in your brush as well. Now the last set of tiles I'm going to paint up here are the dirt, rock, and grass tiles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 coats of paint. Actually, I guess it'd be 3 if you count the black that's on it. We've undercoat this in flat black. I'm going to use the dirt color, and I am going to dry brush it heavily on next. And then after that, I am going to hit it with a light cream color to kind of bring out the highlights on it. So this coat of paint is going to be on a little bit heavier. So I do want to get everything out of my brush that I can. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to kind of lightly, you know, jam in there. I'm not going to do big strokes. I'm just going to kind of slowly cover the area a little bit. And we don't really want much black to show. And so what I'm going to do is I am just going to start hitting it and hitting it. And you can kind of see what that's doing. Slowly the black will go away, and I'll be left with different shades of brown. Now, the brown is going to look different from what you have on your paper towel, because this black is transmuting through the brown, and it changes the color somewhat. So you see that this is actually coming up. Okay, I'm going to need to re-wet my brush here with paint, wipe it out, and then I'm going to do it again. Now, what you see, if we kind of overdo this a little bit, it's going to be okay, because we have a lighter color going on top of this. Once you look at this and you go, man, he's kind of hitting that a bit much, isn't he? You know, you really want to hit it quite a bit, but you have to do it slowly. You have to do it in lots of brush strokes so that you get all those differences in color. Now, I think the dirt and rock area right now is pretty good. What we're going to concentrate next on is the grass. So let me zoom out just a little bit on the grass. And the grass we're going to hit fairly heavy. And it doesn't matter if you get a few brush strokes on the grass. What I'm going to do is I'm hitting the grass, and I'm not as careful with the grass. What I want to do is I want to cover up most of that black. You can kind of see the grass texture that we've got here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to hit it quite a lot, so that most of the surface is brown, but yet you can still see a little bit of definition there. Let's see, how's that look? And once again, don't forget to paint your single little tiles as well. Now, after your piece is dry and you set it aside, I strongly suggest getting a little more paint on your brush and just hitting the grass areas again. Just go ahead and don't have to be too careful with it. If they look a little splotchy, like they show some, brush strokes or brush splotches, it's probably going to be okay. Now, for the last steps on this earth, rock, and grass texture here, I'm going to dry brush with the earth colors, the very lightest earth color, and it's kind of like a light cream color, almost a light sand color. So I don't want hardly anything showing up. So if we gently go over it, you shouldn't see anything happening on the surface. So let me zoom in just a little bit here. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to very, very gently go over the surface here. You can kind of work it in a circular motion, or you can do kind of a small jabbing motion. And what I want to do is just gently hit it. Gently hit it, gently hit it, and move around. Move around to different areas. And that way you won't just be hitting the same area, because if you hit the same area over and over without moving around, the paint doesn't have time to dry. And what it is you can actually scrape that paint back off with the brush. So it's really important that you kind of move around the area when you do this. Now it looks like it's starting to pick up some of the details on here. So I'm just kind of picking up the highlights and the rocks. And at this point I'm just going to jam down just a little bit. And I'm going to kind of avoid the grass. But if I hit the grass a little bit, it's not going to matter all that much. Okay, now that the rocks are done, we're going to use a little bit of our earth tone light color that I'd mixed a little bit of green and a little bit of yellow into. It kind of makes it kind of a yellowish, green pea color, but just a really light pastel one. You want to go really lightly with this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of jam it in a little bit randomly. And we're not going to be super careful with it, but we're just going to kind of jam around it a little bit. And you can probably see there's a little bit of a color difference between it and the other one. You really, you don't want to have too much green in it, or it's going to be kind of obvious, that you're trying to make green grass. I wanted a little more dead grass, so there's a little more yellow in it. A little bit of an uneven texture is fine, because it doesn't have to be even. I mean, it's grass. Grass is a little bit patchy, a little bit blotchy. And if you accidentally hit over onto the ground a little bit, well, that's probably okay. It'll help it blend into the ground a little bit. And that's pretty much it. That will pretty much do what we need to there. So you can kind of see close up what that grass texture looks like according to the rocks and everything.